This snowy day ends. Tomorrow when we come down here, if we leave this up by the heating vent overnight, tomorrow this will be ready to pull off the tin foil and buff it out. Hopefully hopefully we're not going to get any more snow. This morning we woke up, everything's dried up nice. The next step is going to be to take off the tin foil and see if we can clean up some of the blend areas on this. Now, of course, having this dry overnight, paint's fully cured, hopefully. You never really know. The heating vent does help a lot. Now, by getting this back masking off, I'll be able to see just how, oh boy, Mark, are you lucky? That area where it blended in. And again, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Now, we always have, even with an airbrush, which minimizes it, there's always a little bit of overspray, but we're going to be able to get that off relatively quickly. I'll go get my little buffing wheel and some compound while I'm at it. I may as well just repolish, rebuff the whole thing for Mark. It's only because we love him so much, because he likes two strokes. Now, this is the product that seems to work pretty well on this. Here's one trick. We have a pad that's already got some of this on there, so he just was buffing out some other parts. Don't put too much on here. If you overdo it, you just make a mess. And the main, as I touch it, the main thing is to get it around the edge as I speak. The trigger's right here. Can kind of catch you by surprise when you haven't had your coffee yet in the morning. Anyway, let me show now, while that's sitting on there, we get a close-up of this. Now, the airbrush has a lot less overspray. If we were to have done this with a little touch-up gun, see a lot more spraying. Now, and a special thanks to Dale, who's brought us a case of these microfibers. They're really good. We always can use more microfibers. You never have too many microfibers. Let's see how this took care of a little bit more up here. This is a relatively rough compound before I get the smooth compound, what I call the final compound. Oh yeah, nice. Down here, now this area, I'm going to do some of this by hand because we got a little divot down there, and I don't want, it's where I did that repair. I don't want to mess up this paint line. So I'll do that just to get the rough stuff off. Oh, this came out nice up here. And then the last little bit I'll do by hand. Now, there's always some spots where now in this case it's in the valley, where I don't want to take the buffer and grind down in there, and I want to do this by hand. And a little bit of rubbing compound. This is a little rougher than what we've been using, the polishing compound. So I want to get off the overspray. Here's what I'm trying to do. Trying to get it all over the floor here if I can. The rubbing compound is good for getting down into the valley. Again, I just don't want to feel the overspray. There's a minimum of it. And what would happen if you didn't do this in the course of just wiping a bike off after you ride it, assuming some people ever do that, that this would eventually, the little dots, let's call them little dots. But before I hit this with the real final buffer, I want to get, and I can do it by hand. Ooh, that's nice. And believe it or not, the old school way of doing it by hand, like we used to do with the model planes, it almost goes as fast as buffing with the wheel. It's just a lot more work. And I can see already that whoa, wow, it's coming out nice. This area just couldn't have been better. And this one up here, and I'll touch this up too. As we're coming up on the end of this project, and I wanted it to be, as long as I have the fairing off the bike, I may as well polish the whole thing out a little bit. And we certainly had a lot of good rides with this last summer. This really was a great project for Mark. And basically it's all on video, 22 parts I think altogether, out on the Windy Channel. Now even though we've polished this, there's still, here's what happens, where the overspray ends, there's that last few little things that have to be sanded out. And of course, I want to do this, I want to show the sandpaper we're using, the Rhino Wet 2000. And where that edge is, now sometimes you can't totally get it out, but you sure get it out enough that it looks better than the part. And this would be a good part to do a before and after on. If you go back to the beginning of the first video, when we got the parts, and now is two totally different things. Now we're working on little oversprays and stuff that, well, now even I've noticed, even if you don't do this, in the course of cleaning bugs off the bike with a rag, or God forbid you wax your bike from time to time, this overspray seems to go away, but we try to get as much of it off as we can, of course. Once you polish it, you always seem to see that edge, but what happens is a month from now, when the paint is, this is harder than the touch-up paint, the blend will be a lot better. So let me just see if I can get it closer than that. The trick, like with anything finishing, any finishing oriented thing, is just to be fussy, spend the time. This is a very rare bike, a collector bike, so anytime we put into it, we're preserving some of the history of motorcycling here, as opposed to just buying a new bike at Motorcycle Mall or whatever. Now in my case, I wax and clean the bike so much, this wouldn't even be, I wouldn't even have done this step. I would have just left it, and knowing that after 5 rides, and again I use the polishing wheel sometimes once a month or so, put on a nice coat of carnauba wax. I know not everybody does that, but it's just my personal preference, and it looks like we got that pretty good. Pretty good is always in the eye of the beholder. We'll know now, and I'll know right away, and I'm only going to just touch. This is a soft pad. This is not the pad we started out with. Different pad. And a lot of people are totally, they panic when they take 2000 grit sandpaper to paint, because it gets dull right away. And to bring it back to life, if you have the good 4C compound or something really good, you, in essence, you can bring it back to life pretty quick. And I found almost every fairing part I've ever worked on is a pain in the neck if you only have one person. If you have a second person holding it, when we worked on the Benelli, and that was probably the worst one, and I had Glenn here to help me, you know, we had that whole summer to work on stuff. I had to make a wood fixture for it. This one is not too bad. But when they get big and springy, it gets to be annoying. It gets to be difficult to work on. So let me, now if I can, with no camera cuts, let's just see how that looks. Not sure if you can see, but we've pretty much got rid of that blend. That's as good as that's going to get for right now. Now I got to do the same thing up here. You can see the blend. You can see where it kind of ends and where it kind of starts, kind of fades, and it's the same thing. Even though I've polished it, I can still see that. Get some 2000 grit. Try to get in some position that You can hold it accurately. Now, there's never anything to keep you from doing this to in other words, what I did, any age bike actually, the older the bike is, the better the paint will usually come up. The paint gets harder with age. Harder paint buffs up a lot better than soft paint. But what I did when I picked up my new R1 from Motorcycle Mall in the middle of the winter, and it had snowed the day I picked it up, and it got annoying that I couldn't ride. So what I decided to do, I took the fairing off the bike and did exactly what I'm doing right now. And with 2000 grit, I pretty much took the stickers off the bike, did this, polished the whole thing. And I remember going back to Motorcycle Mall and parking it right next to the guy Ron, who was the service manager. And he had a black one, and I said, you know, Ron, the blue paint always shines better than the black paint. And I was right. He didn't know I put 100 hours of buffing into it. But that paint has held up over the years. I guess Yamaha does a decent job with the paint. Some of the bikes are really cheap with the clear though. When you go to wax them, within 2 strokes you're through the clear. So it's buyer beware as always. And that's why we always put extra clear on the bikes. I never skimp on the clear. Once you have it on there, you can buff away for year after year after year. If you have that really one thin coat, good luck, Charlie. So now we've got this down. And I wanted to see, I like to show things like in real time if I possibly can. Let's see, this one needs a little more sanding. This one is probably because I have a lot more material. I put a lot of material up here. I can still see the blend, so I may as well do it off camera. And by the way, this is because it's going to take 20 minutes, and you're probably bored already, but this is the Indasa Rhino Wet 2000 grit. This is what I would suggest before you compound anything. So now it'll just be a question of getting an approval from Mark, and I don't know when he's going to be able to pick the job up, but hope you've enjoyed watching all of the videos in this series. Even those 22 that we did the original restoration. They're all out there. And thanks for watching. Let's see what you got, Miles. What's in here? What's in here? I see all these. Look at these are all the figures this poor baby's making. Look at this. What is this one? Here's his favorite, Gonzo the robot. What do you got? Grammy got you another robot?
No.
Oh!
A hero masher.
That's a hero masher.
Can you help him with the box so he doesn't rip it?
I can do it myself.
He can do it. He's a big boy. Here's his favorite one, Macho Nacho. What's this one, Bandito? This is his latest creative thing. And then we have all these figures. Just never ends. If only I could teach him a sandpaper fairings, we'd be all set. And Mark would be so happy. Come on, you want me to help you open the box?
You're gonna get hurt with that, honey.
Is that the Star Wars? Star Wars. Let's see what you got. Nothing but Star Wars. I insist you buy a Ducati, not a Harley Davidson. What do you got there, baby?
I got the Inquisitor.
The Inquisitor. Is he a good guy or a bad guy?
Bad guy.
Bad guy. Oh, is Grandpa Wendy a good guy or a bad guy?
Good guy.
Good guy. Okay.